C5 Insight is a Microsoft partner that plans, builds, and supports solutions in Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform. Contact us to modernize your business today.
Welcome to today's webinar on Project Management Office Digital Transformation. Today we're going to talk about managing project management differently, maybe even rethinking how you do project management within your organization. Project management is actually a very old topic, and yet it's an area that most companies still struggle with for a lot of reasons. In fact, let's get into a couple of those reasons to get started. First of all, project management is never just about the project management solution. So when most people think project management, they're really thinking about the task management part of it, right? That's Microsoft Project or Monday.com or one of many other solutions that allow you to put your list of tasks into a list and maybe relate them to each other and manage people getting their jobs done, checking those items off of the tasks. But that's only one piece, and maybe not even the most important piece of project management in many cases. Project managers have to deal with things like documents. How do I capture and retain and share knowledge across the project? Issue tracking. Where do I keep a list of all my active issues that might create a problem for the project and make sure that we get those resolved? Note taking and meetings. How do I share and collaborate with all of those, with all the different people involved in this? Status reports. I need regular status reports published somewhere. Where do those get published? How do we make those surface to the right people? Reporting. Maybe you've got an executive team that wants to understand how a project or a bunch of projects are doing, and they need some way to look at all of that information. And the list goes on and on. So project management is more than just about the task management solution. That's a component, but it's only one of many components. The other thing we've run into over time is that project management solutions are kind of one size fits one. And here's what I mean by that. In particularly if you're a project-centric organization, as we are, and a number of the clients that we support are, project management is so critical to the organization. By definition, it's a strategic differentiator, right? So you want to do project management different from your competitors because that's a big important part of what you're delivering to your marketplace. So buying something off the shelf to do project management probably alone isn't enough, right? You want to tailor it to what you need to do. Even outside of that, even if you're not project centric in what you do and you're just trying to do good project management, oftentimes you have very different project management requirements even within your own business. You might have one group that says, I just need really simple task management. And I don't need a complex piece of software to get my job done, to do my project management job. You might have another department that says, we need extremely sophisticated project management. We need dependencies between tasks. We don't even need just dependencies. We need different types of dependencies between tasks. Layer onto that these other things I talked about on top of that might already be happening in different places. So if you get a project management system, for example, that includes time and expense tracking, your accounting department might say, no, we do time and expense tracking over here in this system. We don't want you to do that in the project management system. That has to happen here. So now you've got these different bits and pieces of the puzzle that maybe you need to keep doing some of them in a place you've done them forever, but other gaps you might need to fill in. So it's one size fits one. Oftentimes it's very challenging to just go grab a project management solution, even if it covers all those different things beyond just tasks I talked about, and have it be what works for your business. So that's what we're going to break into today. For those of you who might be watching this video or joining us today, quick introduction to me if you haven't met me before. My name is Jeff Abels. I run a company called C5 Insight. There it is. We're actually a virtual company now, so we're based mostly throughout North America, a few other places as well. We've been around for over 20 years now. I kind of dig this stuff, so I speak on it a lot. I'm a Microsoft MVP, which basically means I dedicate a lot of volunteer hours to helping to enrich the community, educate people, and I've also kind of gone a little beyond the norms in terms of educating myself about what these do. Written some books on it and all that stuff. The more important stuff is on the right-hand side of the slide. There's my little tribe there. My wife and I are empty nesters now. We have 2 grown daughters. We have 2 grandchildren. We have two sons-in-law. We love hanging around with all of them. They keep us busy, especially since we got to drive 6 hours in any given direction to go see different family members. And sometimes we do that on our favorite means of transportation, a motorcycle, that we enjoy doing that with every now and then as well. Okay, before we dive in, I want to introduce you to a very important person that works for a very important company. Contoso is the world's largest imaginary company, we like to say, and Allie Jameson is a virtual employee there. Why do I introduce you to the two of them? Because when I'm going to play some demos of how some of these things can work for you, you may hear the name Contoso, you may hear the name Allie Jameson. This is just our way at C5 Insight of making these kinds of demos a little more relatable. So instead of just saying, to create a project, click here and do this, we can say, Allie is faced with this challenge. She wants to do this, or Contoso does things this way. So if you hear those names, and you may hear a few others in there as well, you'll just know that this is kind of our imaginary organization or imaginary person who works for it to help make this something that you can, it's a little more interesting and engaging for you as a listener. And the style we use for doing these is what we call the powered by luck approach. If you know C5 Insight, you know everything we do has this idea of better helping the customers we serve to listen to each other internally, to listen to their customers externally, to truly deeply understand them, to create better connections and to know the results so they can continuously improve. We apply the luck principle, there's the logo for it right there, to everything we do, including to how we do these kinds of webinars and training sessions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview verbally and with slides. In some cases, I'm going to show you a little bit of a visionary how it works or how to do something video. There's some time at the end for Q&A, and you can always reach out to me afterwards. And if you want the slides, you can always get the slides from me afterwards. Just ping me. I'll give you my contact information. The short videos I play will be embedded into the slides, so you can click those links to play them. Or we'll also publish the slides to YouTube. Eventually, it kind of lags a little bit right now. We're a little underwater with keeping up with all these, but we will get these out onto YouTube for you as well. You can watch them there. Okay, so here's my quick agenda for the day today, and you can kind of see the orange bars there give you about how much time I'm going to spend on each of these topics. So I'm going to start by talking about very, very small projects. I like the idea of thinking small, medium, large. Remember at the beginning of this, I said there's different types of projects in every organization. So let's talk about that a little bit. So we'll talk a tiny bit about small projects, a tiny bit about medium-sized projects, a lot of time about large projects, because the title of this session has to do with the PMO, the Project Management Office. And by definition, that usually means you've got some pretty sophisticated, detailed, complex projects you might need to track. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time. But it's important to have something to help you understand, that's not all your projects. So what would you do with these other things? At the end, I'm going to kind of wrap all of this up and kind of come back to all three sizes of this again. So it's actually a lot to cover in a very little bit of time. I'm hoping in the remaining 50 minutes we have, I'm going to be able to get through everything I've prepared for you today. So when we think about small projects, first of all, by the way, we're a Microsoft shop. We're very Microsoft centric in everything we do. That doesn't mean we only use tools from Microsoft, but where we can, we do. And we also believe in, if you're already invested with Microsoft, particularly Microsoft 365 and maybe Dynamics 365, you've got a huge suite of tools you can use. So our goal is, let us help you extract the maximum value out of those before you start turning elsewhere to do what you're doing. So with that said, when we focus on these are going to be more the Microsoft suite of tools. I'm not here to tell you that's your only option. I'm here to tell you that we're a Microsoft partner and we're getting a huge amount of value out of these ourselves and have done this for others. So that's going to be our focus today. So when we think about small projects, think about these are for very small groups. It might be a group of one. It might be something that you're just doing on your own as a project. Or it could even be a very, very small team with very simple project needs. So what kind of tools might be available to you to do project management with that? Well, I can tell you, I am a huge fan of something from Microsoft called Microsoft To Do. It has evolved. Microsoft actually bought another program years ago to base this on, but they already had something in Outlook called Tasks. If you ever used Tasks, it was just kind of like a little checklist of tasks, one-off tasks. One of them was not necessarily related to the other, but you could track your tasks. It's been in Outlook forever. Now it's called To Do, and it's evolved quite a bit. To Do is great for really small projects. I'm I'll date myself. I was trained in the old format of day timers and day runners, if you remember that. So you hand wrote everything in a little notebook every day, and you flip the page the next day to plan out that next day. And if you didn't finish all your tasks this day, you take them and you rewrite them the next day to get them done, that kind of thing. And frankly, for me, for years, there was never anything that quite made me feel comfortable with my personal task management again until I got used to do. Now, what I hear from a lot of people is to do is I played with it for a few minutes. It didn't work for me. It doesn't jive with me. It doesn't work the way that I work. That's exactly how I felt when I first got into it too. If you take the time to really get used to it, you will find it's incredibly flexible and can be bent to work the way you do. You might need to bend your processes, your practices a little bit as well. But when you do, it's an incredible tool. And it's not only incredible because of what I'm going to tell you on this one slide, it's incredible because it has the potential to integrate with what I will tell you on the remainder of the slides. So to do, again, it is just a simple task management solution. If you have any Microsoft 365 subscription at all, you have access to Microsoft To Do. It's also built directly into Outlook. You can access it from there. Outlook from the web. There's a desktop app for it and all that. This picture that you're looking at happens to be a picture of the desktop version of To Do. But all the data actually lives right now in Microsoft Exchange, where all of your Outlook email and everything lives too. It lives there. So whatever version you're using, it's kind of looking in a window at that data for you to manage it. The nice thing about To Do is, first of all, it's great for my personal tasks. If I just need to get stuff done, I can easily add stuff to it. It's integrated with a lot of what I do on my desktop. So, for example, if I have an email from someone in Outlook and think, I need to remember to do something with this email, but I don't have time to respond to it right now. I don't have time to do something with it right now, but I don't want to use my inbox as my to-do list, right? Because if your to-do list is in more than one place, you're out of control of your priorities. Now it's like, well, some of stuff is in my inbox, some of it's in a different to-do list. Some of it might be on Post-its put all over your monitor. You want to get into as few as you can to have good personal time management practices. So in Outlook, I can go to those emails and just say, flag this email. If you've ever done that, you might notice it says something like today, next week, custom time, whatever that is. When you do that, it's actually pushing that email into To-Do with a checkbox next to it on the date you scheduled it for. So now I can kind of not use my inbox anymore, right? I either do something right away with my inbox, or I mark it that it needs to be done on a certain date, and then I forget about it because I know everything I need to do is now in To Do. OneNote also has similar functionality. You can flag lines in OneNote. So if you're taking notes about something, you're like, oh yeah, I'll get you that presentation next week. You can go up and click the flag on that and say, schedule that for next week. Pushes that into To Do for you as well. To Do also lets you do things like have multiple different lists. You can see on here, I've got personal items. I've got items for my different roles. So as a business owner, I have a lot of different roles I have to live within. Some of them it's more strategic and business planning. Some of it's more very customer engaged. Some of it's more sales and marketing focused. And I like to be able to say, based on my classical training, I have different roles in life and in business, and I have different goals for those. And if I can align my tasks to my roles, it helps me to better prioritize them. So I can put my roles in there as well. And then it's got this nice way of saying, hey, as they come up and are due, they'll show up on my day for me automatically. So no more kind of going, I got to remember to push it forward, push it forward. It's right there on my day. I can reschedule it if I need to. Now I apply some other things to this as well. For example, I use prioritization. I just sort mine alphabetically by day, and I use a good old classical 4-quadrant A through D. How am I classifying my different things I need to get done? And then within each of those 4 quadrants, I start numbering them, 0, 5, every other 5, so I can insert new things in there and that kind of stuff. Just like I did my old day timer days, right? I sort it, I can check them off in sequence. So I find it super, super, super helpful. Are there other ones that are more sophisticated and complex? There are, and I've tried them. And what I found overall is this one's the right combination of simplicity, but enough complexity to get done what I need to get done. A couple of other things I really like about To Do are I can actually share tasks from here. So if I'm working on something with a coworker, for example, and it's just a simple set of things, I can go, hey, I'll create a task here. I'll share it with that person. Or I can even create a category and say that is a shared category. I will have that shared with this other person. I can also share my personal To Do because I have my own Microsoft 365 account just for personal stuff with my business To Do. So now I have one place for all of my tasks. And lastly, I also have subtasks within my tasks. So if I have a task and I look at it and I'm kind of like, hey, I need to email out those invitations to this big upcoming event that we have. Okay, well, that's going to take a lot of time. And it's really a bunch of steps that I have in there. Like I have to design the email, I have to put the list together, I have to schedule the blast, whatever those things are. Well, instead of creating a bunch of tasks for that, if I want to, I can have the one task and I can create subtasks under their steps underneath that one for me to get done. I can also do things like put links to things that live in SharePoint or even attachments directly on these tasks if I want to. So some of that whole collaborative side of this that I mentioned earlier is built right into it. Now, this is very, very simple, right? This is not sophisticated project management. I can't do things like say, I can't start this task until I finish that one, so don't show me that one until I'm done with the first one. I can't cascade dependencies, so if one date changes, a bunch of other things change. It's task management. It's not project management, but it's pretty good task management, and it can link to what I'm doing with project management. All right, I can get very carried away on that one. It's an amazing topic, and if you're not doing it, what I'd say is start now. If that's a one slide you take away from this whole thing, take some time to really go learn to do. I'd love to do a one-day session or at least a 1 hour session just on how to get the maximum value out of to do, because it's really incredible, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You just need to kind of give it a try for a couple of weeks to integrate it into your schedule, and you'll start to get the hang of it. Okay, let's talk medium-sized project now. Now it's a little bit bigger. It's at least a couple of people. Maybe it's bigger. Maybe the needs aren't super, super sophisticated. You might not yet be where you would call yourself running a project management office, but you've got some more sophisticated reporting needs. You've got more moving parts in this. You want to organize and structure this differently. You want dashboards where maybe you can bring multiple projects together in one place. And maybe your PMO even wants to be able to go and look at some reports in one place across all those projects. So for those medium-sized projects, what we call project management for non-project managers, right? And I'm not saying project managers would never use this. We use Planner, even though we have project managers in-house as well. There are things we use Planner for. There's things we get more sophisticated with. But Planner is basically just a more advanced version, right? It's great for team projects. It's great for a little more control over the project elements, even doing some project templating and that kind of stuff. It's great for doing sort of agile, bucketed types of managing of your project workload. We use Planner all the time internally for collective tasks. So for example, we have different meetings for different purposes. We're doing a big co-pilot thing with Microsoft right now. We set up a team in that and we have a planner in it. So when we talk, we're like, hey, I'll do that task, you do that task. We can easily add those tasks there. We have a leadership team meeting that meets every week. And every week we kind of agree on, hey, based on the outputs of this meeting, we need to get these tasks done. We used to not put them in Planner because not everybody likes Planner for managing their tasks. But at some point we realized, well, putting them in Planner is better than writing them down on Post-its or putting them in OneNote. At least if you do use Planner, you have them in there and you can look at them. And if you don't, okay, it's no different than having to go somewhere else to look at your tasks anyway. So it's super, super helpful. And one of the super nice things about Planner is it integrates with To Do. So now when we add tasks in Planner, if they're assigned to me, they show up in my To Do also. So now I don't have to remember to go look at Planner to do some things and look at To do other things. It's all in my To Do for me automatically. I can go look at Planner if I want that bigger global view, but if I just open up my task list and say, what am I supposed to get done today? Everything I've given myself in To Do and everything anyone else has given me in Planner, it's all right there in To Do, and I can see it in one place. Really, really, really nice capability. The other thing is the app Tasks by Planner and To Do, which is now built into Microsoft Teams, tries to bring both of these worlds together for you a little bit as well. So all of these are kind of integrated one with another. There's even more integrations here if you get more sophisticated. So in Microsoft SharePoint, there's the ability to use something called Viva Connections. It's included free as part of your Microsoft 365 license. Viva Connections can put a dashboard in SharePoint with different tiles in it, basically. One of those tiles, if you want them to be, can be your tasks. So if someone goes to SharePoint Home, they can kind of say, oh, by the way, across the whole organization, here are things that are due for you right now. So even if I'm not a To Do user, even if I'm not a Planner user, I can still have some of that information front and center and available to me. You see the little open button there. I can click it. It's going to pop open whatever Planner or To Do those things are in, so I can take a closer look at that. Now, taking that one step further, inside of Microsoft Teams, there is a template. You may know whenever you create a new Microsoft team, it asks you, do you want to create it from scratch or do you want to create it from a template? One of the templates is a project template in Teams. Now, simply put, at a bare minimum, that will say, okay, I'm going to create the team for you. I'm going to create a little handful of channels in there that have more to do with project management for you. And I'm also automatically going to put a planner in that team for you. Okay, so far, not a lot of magic there. You could go create a new team on your own. You could add a tab to a channel. You could tell it that tab is tasks or planner, and it will create the planner for you, and all that's in there. But it also goes behind the scenes and it adds a lot of templates to SharePoint for you as well that do some other things, even custom little mini power apps for you that do certain things. So this will be our first video. Let's take a quick look at what does it look like when you use this Teams template. Allie has been assigned to work on a new project for Contoso. She wants to use Teams and SharePoint to manage the project. So in Teams, Allie starts by creating a new team, and she uses the project template. The process takes a few minutes to complete, but sets up a number of project management specific features. Allie can now work on the project using this Microsoft team, including channels for general information, announcements, project planning, and resource management. And some of these channels include tabs. For example, the announcements channel has the bulletins tabs. Bulletins is a power app created to help with project communications. And as a team owner, Allie can create and update bulletins. Any team member can see the list of bulletins and open them to look at them. The planning channel also has some custom tabs for notes, the OneNote file, milestones, another power app for project management, and the plan, a linked Microsoft planner. Switching to the SharePoint site, the SharePoint site template includes navigation to custom lists for tracking project progress and issues, a component for project countdown, and a news feed that includes a project status template. Allie's team uses this feed to create status reports each week. This Teams and SharePoint template gives Allie a framework to begin managing project tasks, communications, and documents all in one place, and can be modified by Allie to suit the needs of her specific project. All right, pretty cool. So if you remember back at the beginning of the session, I said project management is about more than task management. And this goes a long way towards that. So you say I'm going to create a new team, I'm going to use a project template for it, and it has basically spun up a Microsoft team and a SharePoint site just for that particular project. Now I've got a way to collaborate and chat about it. I've got a way to schedule meetings that can get recorded and automatically put in that project team. I've got a SharePoint site that's using a site template that has lots of other goodies in it, including templated status reports. And by the way, Microsoft just did all the work for you in that. If you look at some of these things and you go, well, my project status report template would be a little bit different. That's okay. You can create your own project status report template if you want to. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get deeper into this. But this is nice. It's not a full PMO tool. Planner doesn't have all these nice bells and whistles we may want, but it certainly checks off a whole lot of boxes. A lot of project managers are not checking off very well in their projects today. Now, if you wanted to take that and say, I like it, but I'd like to be a little bit more of a PMO even with that. So right now, when you create each of those projects, they're standalone, more or less. There is a planner homepage you can go to say, okay, can kind of see all the projects I'm involved in and understand what my task list looks like and all that. But there's no way to bring together, for example, all the status reports from all of those projects, or summarize all the latest things going on in all the documents with all of those projects, or just give me a list of all the projects we have going on within the organization. So how can you do some of that? Well, one simple way you can do it is still use that planner template, that go to Teams, create a project team using the template. It does everything we just saw in that last video and that last slide. Now you're also going to go into SharePoint. You're going to create another site. And the best practice for this is probably to create what's called a communication site. You're going to make that site into what's called a hub site. A hub site is just a way of saying, I'm a site that other sites can relate to. Think of it as almost like they can be children of me, right? I'm the top box and these are below me or subordinate to me. So you've created a hub site. Now, for each of those sites that gets created when you create that team. Go to those sites, and there's a place you can go to and say, associate this site, associate it with that hub you created. Let's say that hub you created, by the way, is called PMO Hub, Project Management Office Hub. Now you've associated those with it, and you can create connections between all of those sites that make it a little bit more a center of the world for your project managers. So here's a conceptual diagram here. The blue site is the hub site you just created, your PMO hub site. The orange site is a project site, but you'll have lots of project sites that associate with this hub. Now, when you set this up correctly, what happens is things from those child sites flow up to the hub site. So news, and if you remember those SharePoint those status reports for projects we created, those are actually called news in SharePoint. You just create a template for news, and this piece of news is a piece of news called a status report. Whenever you create one of those and post it to a project, it automatically becomes visible also on the hub site. A little configuration required, but not too challenging to do. If you want to have libraries of information in there, that information can also flow up and be available. One thing we do at C5 Insight is we record virtually every meeting that we have. Those go into project sites, but we also have a latest recordings on the hub site. So if you're just kind of looking at the hub site real quickly, you can go, oh, look, these meetings took place. I can see kind of some little excerpt from it and click it if I want to watch the video or something like that. Security also rolls up from those sites. And what that means is if Jeff is a member of Project A, but Jeff is not a member of Project B, Jeff can't see anything in that project site. And when Jeff goes to the hub site, Jeff can't see that project even in that hub site. So it's very nice. It's security trims it so I can say, I just see the stuff I should see. Maybe I don't want to see some stuff just because it's inconvenient and it clutters up my view with stuff that's irrelevant to me. Or maybe there's something that organizationally I just shouldn't have access to. So I won't see those things. It takes care of that just with regular SharePoint security. Flowing down from the hub site to the project sites are several other things. Navigation flows downwards, so I can kind of create an overall navigation at the top of it. For example, I can say, here are links to all the projects that are under this hub. Well, the nice thing about that is now I don't have to go, okay, I'm on project A, I want to go to project B. I got to go back to the hub and then back down to project B. You could do that, but you could also build it into navigation such that I can go straight from where I am on this project site to whatever the hub site navigation has made available to me, which might include my sister project sites or anywhere else on my intranet I might want to go. Branding flows down too. What's nice about that is I set my branding for my hub site. Maybe that's a little different than the branding in the rest of my SharePoint intranet. And now whenever I'm on the hub or a project site, I kind of know visually I'm in the project area. This kind of has a distinct look and feel, and I know where I am. Search also flows down. What that means is when I'm on the hub site and I search, I'm actually searching everything in the project sites under that hub site as well, but I'm not searching outside of it. Really cool, because if you have a lot of projects going on and you're used to using Microsoft 365 search or SharePoint search, you might think, well, I go to the home page for SharePoint and I search everything in my entire intranet. That's great. That's powerful. But if projects are a third of what's in your intranet and that's not what you're looking for content in right now, that's incredibly cluttered for you. This way, I can go down just to the PMO hub site and I can go, I just want to look at what's going on in my projects from here. Also security trimmed. And if I go to the project sites underneath that, I'm only going to search within that project. So the further I drill into my intranet, the more I'm going to restrict my search to just the things that are at my level or below within it. So it takes care of all that. Really nice. Now, there's a lot of pros. I kind of gave you a lot of those. It's easy to use, not too challenging for you to set up even and administer even. Lots of flexibility with what you do. The to-do integration, super powerful. Cons, there are some significant ones here. It's not configurable. You can't do time track. It's lightly configurable, I guess is what I would say, particularly the project piece, the planner piece. You can't track time in here without a lot of extra work. There's no way in Planner to say, here's how much time I spent on this task, like in a separate field where you can report on it. As a project manager, one of the big lacking items in Planner right now is there's not even the ability to do dependencies. So I can't say task A comes before task B. I can't start B until I'm done with A. And then if the date for A changes, it automatically cascades down to the date for task B as well. I can't do that right now in Planner. Changes are coming, you might be aware of, and we'll talk about those at the end. But even then, it's a version of Planner, so we'll talk about that. There's not a lot of cross-project aggregation among planner right now. You saw kind of how we can do some of that with the PMO, but those tasks, you don't have access to a master task list where you can inquire with it. You can do things with all the tasks in one place. Each project kind of stands alone. If you looked at the template that Teams created when you created the Teams project using the template, it has all these other apps in it with their own dates, right? So it's like, oh, here's a list of issues with their own dates that they're due. Here's a list of updates with their own milestone updates on those things as well. That might not work well for you. You might look at it and go, my dates should really all be in my project plan. I don't want to have 3 different calendars I need to maintain just to keep my project up. And then there's also the question of, all those new apps that come with that template, are they even a fit for you, or will it create a lot of clutter for you that you may not need? So think about that. I encourage you to go in there, try it. If you think we don't need something like Microsoft Project, we need something like this, but a little more sophisticated than just Planner, play with it. You might just go, we're going to ignore those couple things, or when we spin this up, we'll delete those things that we're not using, or we'll create our own project plan template in Teams just to create projects the way we need to. Lots of options for you within that, but start experimenting. There's a lot of power in there. A lot of people go away from it quickly thinking, well, this isn't everything that we need. It's not a perfect fit for our needs, so we're going to look for something else. And that journey often takes them to, we went and bought something else. And now that something else doesn't behave with all the other things you're doing very well. Sometimes taking a little bit of a hit in the features that you really like to have in favor of lower licensing costs, but maybe more importantly, integration. So my documents and sites and all those things can work a little bit better together, might be worth it. So play around with that some before you go to something that has a few more bells and whistles. But if you need to go one level deeper, that's what I'm going to spend most of the rest of our time talking about.
Struggling to leverage Microsoft Enterprise Solutions? At C5 Insight, we understand the intersection between technology, business, and people. Contact us to learn more.
What if you are a PMO? What if you do have projects with these much more complex needs? What are some of the options available for that? So I'm going to break this section up into 3 subsections. I'm going to start by talking about portals. And portals, if you're like, oh, what is a portal? How's that different when I talked about it? It's actually not. When you spin up a team using a project template, that's creating a portal for you. A portal is really another way of saying I've created a site, right? So you can say it's a project portal, a project site. Those things are synonymous. When I show this one to you, I'm going to show you one that is created with a tremendous amount of additional customizability and flexibility than what we just looked at. And we hear that this is a huge gap for many of the folks we work with. So I'm going to kind of start there. Then I'll talk more about the task management options at a high level, and then I'll actually give a quick demo or at least a walkthrough of some of those options. May not be able to play all the videos in this since we're about halfway done with our time already, but again, you can get the slides from me if you want the videos. Okay, so let's talk about portals and the Project Management Office Hub. This is let's say a structure that we hear from a lot of people that they need for managing their projects. It's familiar to us because it is a structure that we use when we manage projects. So as you work through this hierarchy diagram here, at the top is that blue rectangle that says PMO Hub in it. What that is this idea of I need a place I can go where I've aggregated all the information from all my projects, not only for visibility, but even for administration of all these portals, all these sites that I'm maintaining. So that's kind of the top of the world. And there can be lots of different cases for how that gets used. It might be just the home for the project management office and just project managers use it. But more likely, you probably have other users who come there too. Maybe executive management comes there and says, look, I don't need to see all the details about every project task that's getting done, but I want to see status reports and I want to see when milestones get done. And I'd like to see some kind of maybe Power BI report or something like that that tells us how we're doing with all of our different projects or something like that. That's a viable scenario. Below that, the orange boxes are where you're kind of compartmentalizing projects, you're subcategorizing projects. So most organizations have some form of this too, right? You might have different lines of business who are running projects. Or if you're like us, you have different clients who are executing projects for you. So I don't want my clients to see what other clients are doing. Of course, with us, they wouldn't want that either. So we have this middle tier where it's like, this is your home. You can come here and you can see all of your projects and everything summarized about those projects as well. And then we get to the next tier, which is where all the detail lives, right? Those are the green boxes. Those are the project sites, the project portals themselves. And so you might have any number of them, right? Under the orange boxes, you might have some orange boxes with just one. You might have some orange boxes with 30. Sometimes you might have 15 active ones in one client. Sometimes you might not have any active ones going on within a client. Or typically for us, it's 1 or 2 active at any given time. So that's kind of the hierarchy. And again, sort of like what you saw when we looked at the PMO concept a couple of slides ago. Same thing here. It's just a little more sophisticated than the way that simple model works. Depending on which level you go to, you see the right things. Now remember, all of these, to set up correctly, they're security trimmed. So if I happen to go to the PMO site, but I cannot see anything going on with a specific client or department, I'm not going to be able to see any of that information. I won't even know that it exists. It won't be like, there it is, but if I click it, it says you don't have permission. It's just not there, right? So if you're running a business and you're like, hey, we're contemplating acquiring another business and we want to manage that like a project. Well, you probably don't want all your people to know that you're planning on acquiring another business until you're ready to make that announcement. You need good security trimming. Or you might have a client and you might say, hey, team A, they don't even need to know that team B is doing a project with you right now because there needs to be some firewalls around that for whatever reasons. We need good security trimming on this. So no matter what level of this hierarchy I come to, I'm only going to see what I have permission to see. I'm only going to have things roll up that matter to me, right? So security trimming is super important. The other 2 things to note on this before I jump into the other slides are, you see those little purple flyouts over there. So those are actually Microsoft Teams integration as well. Now, when I showed you the other video, Microsoft Teams integration was super simple because I just said, I'm going to create a team. It's just for the purpose of tracking a project. Great. But when you get into being a little more sophisticated like this, sometimes you say, you know what, that team needs to be secure too, right? So if I've got 3 projects for one client, I may not want the people participating in those 3 projects to know about those other projects. And I might have one place where I want to collaborate with the client or the department, and another one where my project team can collaborate internally. So you need to think about those requirements and how you set that up. We've done it a very specific way, and Microsoft is actually making new ways available to you right now. So I'm going to show you our way, but again, this is not one size fits all, right? This is one size fits one. What I tell you is if we engage with you or if you decide to do something like this, you need to sit down and not go, well, here's how they did it. Let's just apply their formula. You need to sit down and document what's your vision, what's your journey, what are your requirements, what are the right things for you to buy, and what's the right way for you to tailor them for this to work the way you need for it to work. So I'll give you one version and you can go from there. And of course, at the bottom of this on the green box project site B, this is where the details live, right? So those project plans and everything like that, I'm going to come to that last this time, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the next segment. So at the very top of this is the PMO hub. I'm going to show you a quick video of this, couple-minute video, to give you a vision for 2 things. Number one, what you might see on a hub like this. Again, it's Legos, right? I'm not showing you all the different possibilities, just some. And I also want to show you how you probably need to imagine administering something like this, because at this sophistication level, unfortunately, it's not as easy as just going and saying, create a team, and it'll take care of everything for me. You probably have much more nuanced and complex security requirements and content management requirements than those simpler cases I showed you before. So let's take a look at how someone might administer this as a project manager and what's visible at that PMO level. From the Project Management Office portal, Ali and other authorized project managers and administrative users can see a summary of all projects. Projects and clients can be categorized however needed. Contoso has categorized them as clients with active and inactive projects, service-only clients, prospects, and partners. Within these categories, projects are sorted by client. Ali can click on a client or project to open the underlying portal site. Portal visitors can only see the clients and projects that they have permission to see. Because Ali is a PMO manager, she can see everything. Ali can also see overall summary information, such as news that's made available across the portal to all users, updates about clients and projects such as new portal creation or weekly status reports. These are secure so that only users that are members of those client and project teams can see those items. Learning library updates also available to both clients and Contoso employees. Clients are also invited to participate in collaborative communities, and other public events, milestones, and recent videos are available. Deploying new client and project portals can be handled via a SharePoint interface that has been developed for use by project managers. An authorized user can add a new project or client easily. Security will automatically be set based on the users added to the project. Once the Save button is clicked, a new project site is automatically provisioned based on the information entered on this form. A separate governance portal ensures that proper archival and deletion processes are maintained as well. Back on the Clients and Projects Administration page, it's easy to see all the team members assigned to a client or project and the role each member has. These roles define the security setup for each team member. All right, that's just the top of the pyramid, right? The very top of the hierarchy. So it's interesting because all the action kind of happens at the bottom and flows up to be visible at the top. There are a few at the top, like certain news articles and stuff like that, but content is mostly created at the project level, a moderate amount at the client level. But this top level is all important, right? It's where everything rolls up to. Diving down to the hierarchy one level deeper, what about that middle layer? Now, by the way, I should comment here that not everybody needs a middle layer, right? You might be in an organization where you're like, we don't really have clients. And while we might have different departments, we can just kind of have the security at the project level and have a PMO, and we don't need this middle level. And that's okay. Again, the idea is it's Legos. You snap together the pieces the way you need to snap together the pieces of this. But most folks we deal with, when we get right down to it, there is this middle layer. Sometimes the middle layer is as simple as, you know, at the marketing department, they don't use sophisticated tools to manage projects. Something like Planner is perfect for them. So we want to support that. But someone like IT, they have very complicated projects, and we actually need to support them with a more sophisticated project tool. And it's useful for us to kind of segregate those into different categories so we kind of deploy the right tool for the right need, as one example. So when you look at these sites, these are a little less sophisticated. You're not creating too much content here, but usually there's some need for something, right? Maybe you're creating some news here overall. Maybe you're welcoming the client or department. Maybe you're tracking specific documents that aren't associated with a project per se. In our world, there's things like sales negotiations and discussions we're having where it's not a project yet, right? So we need a place to track those proposals and discussions. That kind of thing can happen here at the client level. I'm going to skip this one in the interest of time, but you can come back and look at this one later if you want to. This is where really, again, all the action is. So at the bottom of the pyramid here, this is where we have lots and lots of sites with lots of things going on, and where anybody who's doing projects is going to have most of the action too. So all that project-specific information is buried down here. The project itself, the documents, some of those documents might be secure. Hey, only the internal team can see them. You'll see how it works in our production environment. Some of those might be open. That does not mean open to the whole world. It doesn't even mean open to your whole company. It means open to everybody who's participating in this project. And you can set up security roles to your specifications. If you remember that administration experience, you can go, hey, for us, we have vendors who can see only this area, clients who can see that area plus this area, and employees who can see that area plus this area plus this area. Whatever you need those requirements to be, you can configure SharePoint and those security roles to manage all that. With a lot of other kind of magic behind the scenes with things like Power Automate Flow and Logic apps, sometimes custom SharePoint web parts, you can automate that process completely and templatize it. So as you saw in our administration area, that's what we've done. Sort of new project, fill out some stuff, and the magic happens behind the scenes. It deploys it, resulting in a site like this. Let's take a look at one project site. We're on the Contoso client site. Let's open up one of their active projects to have a look at a project site. We'll use a Luck 365 SharePoint support site. Like client sites, project sites include a number of document libraries. Secure libraries, indicated with the padlock, are for C5 Insight access only. Other libraries can be accessed by both C5 Insight and the client. Let's take a look at the Shared Project Documents library. These libraries use metadata and no folders at all. Just 2 metadata columns give these libraries a consistent structure that's easy to search and navigate. The project site also includes a link to the project plan. Project for the Web provides read-only visibility to the client and most of the C5 Insight team, with update access available to the C5 Insight Project Manager. Back on the project site, project sites also include a list of support requests. Support requests can be submitted by the client, by C5 Insight personnel on behalf of the client, or through automated processes for clients with recurring service requirements. The support request process is automated to ensure estimated hours are approved prior to commencing work. Alerts are set on the issue list so owners know when an issue's been assigned to them and when the status changes. Back on the project homepage, project announcements are created automatically and status reports are published weekly by the project manager. When a project is first created, the first announcement always includes helpful information about the project and deliverables. Returning again to the project homepage, an interactive project burndown chart always shows exactly how a project is tracking against the total estimated number of hours. And in the third column, the user can click the client name to get back to their client site, and other important project milestones and information is made available in this column. All right, a couple of side notes about what you just saw there. First of all, going back to one of my opening comments, one size fits one, right? So what you saw there probably isn't the perfect fit for what you're doing. It's a very good fit for what we're doing, but honestly, it's not always a good fit for what we're doing either. We actually have multiple different project templates for different scenarios. So we don't need to show the burn down all the time. Some of the clients we support say, we don't care about burn down. Our customers don't care about that. They don't need to see how many hours have been committed and how many have been used. So we have different charts that we're going to show in those contexts. All of that's perfectly fine. The other thing you saw were things like the issue list. So we've got issues that we can report and people can resolve them. We've actually got more issues. We've got more lists, in our project sites now. That video is about 6 or 9 months old. You can create those lists either using Dynamics 365 components or Microsoft lists. So we see people do things like, I want to track change orders. I want to track issues we're working on together. I want to track a list of contacts. Whatever you might need to track, you can build those into your SharePoint template. You saw just one example of a SharePoint template there. And then there's the Teams integration component of this. So again, there are 2 different flavors to how we're doing Teams integration. One is we want to be able to collaborate internally. We want a safe place to share information, and we don't want that to be email. And we've actually found that using Teams this way has absolutely transformed our business. Because we now don't use email for much, my email volume has been reduced by probably 90% over the last 2 years because of this, because almost all internal communications is now in Teams. If it's just one-on-one, it's in chat. If it's an internal topic, it's one of our internally focused teams on the appropriate channel. And if it's client related in any way, it's in the client team for that client. Why is that powerful? Not only diminishing my email inbox, but also because we add somebody new to a team, they don't have to go, hey, project manager, can you go find all the different assets about this project and forward those emails to me and give me links to those recorded meetings so I can get up to speed? We just say, we're going to add you to the team. There's the team. You can go look at the project now and you can go watch all the recorded meetings or use Copilot to summarize the notes if you want to. Read all the posts we've done internally about it because they're not in email, they're in posts. Those artifacts become easily accessible across the organization. It saves us a tremendous amount of time and increases the quality of the outcomes of the projects that we're working on. Super, super powerful. Not all of our clients want to engage with us on Teams yet. Everybody's in a different place with this. But for those who do, we have a separate place that we engage with them. And we actually do that on project teams. So you can kind of see the orange box, internal collaboration. We do that at the client level. Client doesn't see it, but we create a team for that client, a channel for each project. And now our conversations are nicely categorized by whatever project we're working on, and it's all right there in one team. We didn't want to do that with clients because we want to have a totally separate, safe place to collaborate with clients. And we wanted to security trim those. So if the client says, we've got 3 projects with you and we don't want project team A to know what project team B is up to necessarily. So in that case, for every single project, we create a team dedicated just to that project, and we can create channels for the different topics of conversation we might have about that project within that single team. There are other ways to do that. I'd suggest you look at your own requirements, model them accordingly. You might even go, I like that, but that's complicated. We want something less complicated. You could potentially use shared channels right alongside internal public channels to divvy things up between customer conversations and internal conversations. Again, many Legos, many ways to assemble them. And I referred to this before. I don't have a video to play for you on this yet, but Copilot is playing a bigger and bigger part in this, not only in things like summarizing meeting content and stuff like that, but also things like one of our more industrious developers said, I'm really bad at kind of pre-planning and holding time on my calendar to get stuff done. It's just a discipline. It's hard for me. So he actually wrote a Copilot using Copilot Studio to say, okay, look, once a week, I'm going to say, you go do this for me, right? Look at all the stuff I've got to do this week and about how much time it takes. Keep some time open on my calendar for people to add other meetings or for me to come up for air or have a little wiggle room to go over on some things, but schedule my calendar for me. And it does that for them. So Copilot's playing more and more of a role in this as we go on. Pretty powerful stuff. Okay, so probably won't have time for any more videos, but at least I want to get the high level of this next couple of topics for you. That was the portal side of this, but what about that bottommost tier where we're talking about actually managing the projects? How do we do that? What's the task management solution for the PMO? So let's talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about, well, how might that work? So first thing to show you are, in our world, when we think about Microsoft, we look at the Microsoft solutions first, and we say these are the 4 primary. There are other things you could do for project management, including things like OneNote and Excel, but also Azure DevOps and stuff like that. For a lot of reasons, we've only included these 4 options here. So the first option is Planner. We've already talked about that's not really a project management solution, right? It's kind of a task management, project management for non-project managers. And you kind of see the reasons why below that one. There's Microsoft Project, good old legacy project, and Project Online. You can see the one big thing there that's got the red X next to it is future facing. These do not seem to be things that Microsoft is continuing to invest in. Instead, they're moving towards Planner on the one hand, but that's out for some other reasons, Project for the Web on the other hand. So Project for the Web has some great capabilities built into it. There's also something else called Project Operations. I'll talk more about how all these interrelate in just a minute. Notice Project for the Web says soon Planner Premium. So Planner is about to get a big makeover. There will be the free version of Planner that you're already using, but with some new capabilities. And then there will be this new premium version of Planner. Essentially, that premium version of Planner will be Project for the Web. And it'll work mostly the same way it does now. It'll, I believe, store data in the same place. Microsoft's gradually disclosing information, so we're standing by to get the full version of the truth, but that appears to be what's happening with that. Project Operations takes that one level further and says, in addition to just basic task management, there's probably other things you might want to do as a project management office, particularly if you're delivering projects to customers and you want to collaborate with your customers in that journey, and maybe even collaborate internally around sharing information with your sales and service and marketing departments about customer relationships and stuff like that. So those 2 on the far right, those are professional project management office feature sets. And in fact, as you go from Project for the Web to Project Operations, it's all the same stuff. It's just even more on top of that in Project Operations. Let me say that a little bit differently, because I know there's a lot here to unpack. So Project for the Web, if you're familiar with any project management solution, that's Project for the Web, right? I can set up my tasks in it. I can have my hierarchies and my milestones and my dependencies and my dates, and I check them off as I get them done and assign people to them. Project for the Web does all of those things, and it does it very, very well. It's just the next evolutionary step of Microsoft Project. Doesn't do everything a classic project did, but does almost all the really important stuff, and it's kind of growing in capability. Now, what you may not know about Project for the Web is it stores its data in a database called the Dataverse. The Dataverse is just a cloud database developed by Microsoft. In fact, they used to call it the common information store. I can't remember the exact name, but it basically meant there's certain common pieces of information that have a specific format that it makes sense to store them in. Those common pieces of information might be something like the customer, an activity, or in this case, a project or a task. So they said, we're going to have this new place to store data that's in Project for the Web. The database behind the scenes is called the Dataverse, where we store this information. Now, it can live completely independently. We just have a database for that. One cool thing about it is if you've got 50 projects and Projects for the Web, you only have one database now. It's all in the Dataverse. So all of your tasks for all those projects, they're one big task list, but they're marked with which project they belong to. So now you can report on those in one place instead of having to go aggregate them from multiple projects. Now, the other thing the Dataverse has built on top of it is something called Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement. That can live in a totally separate Dataverse, or it can share, cohabitate the same database with Project for the Web. Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement is essentially a suite of applications made for customer relationship management. Typically, those are the applications that people doing sales jobs, customer service jobs, or marketing jobs might use to access information and get their job done. So you can actually have projects coexist alongside of that or independent of that. Now, the other thing on top of this that I mentioned on the last slide is now we have Dynamics 365 Project Operations. Part of the Dynamics 365 CE suite of apps is called Project Operations. It still uses the Dataverse. It also still uses Project for the Web. It just adds a lot of other features and capabilities even on top of that. So if all you need is just core project management, it doesn't really need to be aligned with customers, and you don't need a lot of other things outside of the project you need to track, such as time and expenses and stuff like that, you might say, all I need is Project for the Web. If you need projects, but you need them cohabitating space with customers, because sometimes your projects are done for customers or in partnership with customers, and you want to be able to link those records together, you might go, I can use Project for the Web plus Dynamics 365 apps. And if you have really sophisticated projects that you're doing for customers where you're even bidding and quoting those projects upfront with your customers, you need a lot of extra services, a lot of extra capabilities around that, you might want to use Project Operations. So taking that one final step further, another way of saying that is I can use Project Operations on top of Project for the Web. I can use just Project for the Web, or I can create my very own app on top of Project for the Web to work exactly the way that I need it to work. I'm not trying to explain this so you can go, okay, I know exactly what we need to do for ourselves today. What I'm trying to explain to you is where we've seen a lot of, about 70% of the project work we do is recovery. Not long ago, someone came to us and said, hey, we're having problems getting Project Operations to work the way our partner told us it should work. And when we went in there and evaluated it for them, what we ultimately walked away with saying was, this is way more than you need. It's overcomplicating CRM for you. It's making your salespeople's lives harder. As humans, we often go, I'm looking for that license to buy. I'm looking for that product I need to get something done. And we start there with the assumption that that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to work for us. My message to you is one size fits one. So start with good planning to make this happen. I've used up almost all my time. So now I'm going to have to really race through the last bit of this and just let you go back and play these videos if you want to. The good news is these are things you probably kind of know about already. So when we talk project management tools, remember Project for the Web is a task manager. It can be standalone. You just go to the Project for the Web interface and you can access it. Or it can be embedded directly into a Power App. A Power App can be Project Operations or something you create custom. And the nice thing if it's embedded is if you've got a lot of other data you're managing, all of that is right there alongside your project plan. Project Operations and your own custom apps can go beyond just the P4W is my acronym for Project for the Web, can go beyond just that task management. You can add all sorts of other fields to this if you want to. And on some of the following videos, you'll see some examples of how that might work. So in this case, you would see how a salesperson could work with a project manager to create a quote if your project process started that early. You could also see how the project manager could then do more detailed planning and estimating as a result of this, working directly with a tactical project plan, but it's keeping things in sync with dynamics behind the scenes to have line item by line item estimates to track things at all sorts of different levels, even doing things like this is a not to exceed project and this is a split project across multiple billing accounts because I have 3 clients who are being charged for this depending on the phase of the project, for example. Using other tools like Power BI, you can do powerful things like resource management. So if you're someone like us where you say, look, we've got a bunch of people, and what we're really selling is the brains of these people to do things for our clients. If those people's brains aren't engaged for a day, we never get that back, right? It's like 8 hours of product that just got taken away, right? It's like 8 laptop computers that just got taken off the shelf at Best Buy, and you can never have them back, right? So it's really important to us that we go, we need to look at our people and make sure that we're giving them as much work as we can so that they can meet their goals, so we can meet our profit goals, and so that they can meet their goals too, because they're bonused based on how well they actually are able to use their time. And even give them their own time analytics tools so they can analyze how their time is being used. Not all of that's critical for everybody, but for some organizations, that's super important. Project operations also has a lot of other features built into it. I call them project accounting features here. You can see a quick example of some of the many other things you can do with it. So again, when you think about all this, that might be overwhelming. I'm not trying to tell you to choose a solution based on just what you're hearing today, but broadly speaking, you might choose project for the web if you're only focusing on just project task management. You don't need to worry about customers and a lot of other custom stuff. You can still do portals and all those other things that we talked about earlier, but you may not need a lot of other data points to track. Custom Power App you might use if you say, I need to do a little bit more than that, but it's very tailored to us. It's very, our one size fits one experience. Project operations is great if you're saying we were trying to completely reimagine and transform and restart how we execute projects. And by the way, part of how we execute projects is getting them done for clients. Project operations is something you should at least consider, but just understand it could disrupt your existing CRM or even some of your legacy system operations if you're not really careful about how you do it. In the interest of time, I won't play these slides, but this is a very high-level summary of all the different components that came together to see what you've seen so far. Quick one more data point to give you is that Microsoft is rethinking their entire approach to Planner and Project for the web. They're bringing those worlds together in an exciting way. So if you want to take a look at this video, it's one from Microsoft that talks about what's happening. And they say it's in Q1 of 2024. So any day now, we expect to see some of these new features rolling out. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, if you would like the slides, I'd love to get them to you. Just ping me via email. I'll get you the slides with the built-in links. The built-in links will play the videos, even the ones that we had to skip today. This set of videos will be out on YouTube sometime probably within the next 60 days. No promises for exactly when. If you're super anxious to get it, let us know and we'll try to prioritize this one over about 15 others that we've got in the queue, but we'll try to get that out to you right away. Thank you so much for coming today, whether you're live in person or you're watching this as a recording down the road. Really appreciate you being here. We would love to be your partner to help you be successful with project management using Microsoft's tools. Please reach out and contact me if there's anything we can do for you. Have a great day. Thank you.